So it's been quite a long time since we've done any sort of video on this Jeep. I believe the last time we did a video on this thing was back in August when I gave you guys that little update video telling you the story about how the tire fell off of it and I had this whole line of cop cars and fire trucks and an ambulance behind me on the side of the road. But anyway, today we've got it here in the garage. As you can see, this beautiful, just work of art Jeep Cherokee here. And we're gonna go over some of the stuff that's happened since the last time we did a video on it. One of the main reasons we haven't done a video on this thing in so long is because it was sitting in front of my house for a pretty long amount of time. The tire flew off of it very shortly before we left the state to go to Indiana for that fireworks show. Of course, it sat in front of my house that whole time, and then when we got back, I didn't do anything on it until, I think, September. Now, September is when we replaced the brakes on this thing. We put new pads on both sides, and then, of course, on the side that the tire flew off of, we put a new rotor as well, because the one that was on there got totally shaved off, as you saw in the video I released telling that story. So after we put new brakes on this thing, I finally started driving it around a little bit more, and one of the days I was driving it, I realized that it needed gas. So I drove down to the gas station, put gas in it, and then when I was about 3 minutes out from my house, I started noticing a really weird smell. When I got home from the gas station and parked the car in its usual spot right in front of my house, I noticed that there was a puddle forming underneath the vehicle on the rear passenger side. So when I noticed that puddle forming right below this tire right here, I had originally thought maybe the rear differential started leaking, but when I poked my head under the Jeep, I found out it was actually a gas leak. After that happened, it sat for another very long amount of time outside my house, and then near the end of December, I believe it was on December 30th, we finally ended up fixing the seal on the fuel pump. That's what was leaking. There's a bunch of other things that we've done to this pile of crap. I mean, this beautiful American-made vehicle. I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to Josiah for you guys so he can tell you the rest of the story.
So another issue this thing has with the power steering. So as you know, as you could see in the past videos, this thing had a leak in the line, which made for some spicy times, like massive smoke coming because it dripped onto the manifold. Issue was, and this was my bad, is that down here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, right down here is where the lines plug into or screw in to the steering box. And on one of those, since it's kind of an awkward area to get into, it needed to be cinched down just a small bit more. But when I installed it, I just didn't tighten it up enough. Went back, retightened it. As far as I'm aware, it's not leaking anymore. So another issue with this wonderful, well-maintained piece of American beauty is that the other night we go out, we're driving it around, it's doing great, it's not leaking gas, surprisingly. And we get to some neighborhood, went through this water puddle, and we stop, turn around, he gets on the gas and he's like, dude, I'm like full throttle right now and it's barely above, I think, 2,000 RPMs, and it's dogging it, it's not going at all. And so I'm like, great. And so he stops, turns around, gets on it, and I felt like the transmission was just slipping heavily.
All right, boys, so we're out here in the puh, as you can see.
And guys, the Jeep reliability is starting to strike now. It's kind of like a Toyota, I guess. Which,
So,
funny thing is if this, so transmission's having issues. Funny thing is it's essentially, it's a Toyota transmission.
yeah, and that's the one thing in this thing that's giving me a pretty bad issue right now.
Oh, she looks kind of dark. She doesn't smell burnt though.
Yeah, so it'll still go into a park and reverse and drive, but I've only got like one gear in drive.
And it was slipping like crazy.
Yep.
I mean, it needs some fluid, although I don't think it should be running that bad.
Shouts to Instagram for the 1 minute cutoff. Go ahead and finish, Josiah.
Anyways, I guess we'll have to see if Lucas stop slip helps.
Yep.
Gotta love a wonderfully reliable, well-maintained piece of machinery.
So I'm like, oh, buddy, I think that's your transmission. Stop, let me drive it, let me see how it feels, and then we'll decide what we want to do from there. We also checked the transmission fluid, which is a little bit low, but it didn't smell burnt. It wasn't crazy low, but I was like, it can need a little top off. I drive it around, and we turned it off, turned it back on. It's like it fixed itself. And so I don't know why I didn't think about this, because my 96, before it blew up, had this issue where the throttle position sensor went out. I think it was some aftermarket junk that I had on it. That went out, and that caused my transmission to get stuck in third gear. And so that's what I'm assuming happened with this, is that it got stuck in third gear. The engine's not powerful enough to really power through it, and so it felt like it was slipping when it was really stuck in third gear. So that's a pretty small issue. This is actually a junkyard TPS sensor I got. So, it's an old vehicle. These things happen to them, especially with this high mileage, so it happens. Other than that, there's a issue that's pretty big, but once we show it here, we're going to pretend that we never saw it and that it doesn't exist until the final day comes, and we don't know when that's going to be. Dirty little secret lies here. So, you look, and this is the second time I've pulled it out, and it looks a lot worse. You see how it's really? You see how it's milky now?
Wait, hold on.
You see how it's kind of milky?
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, that's new. Man, this thing just keeps getting better. But also, if you look at the very end, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little bit of metal flake.
Hold on, hold it still so I can pull focus on it, bruh. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, it's got that. This milkiness is new. And this is the first time I've noticed it, and I will go into why I suspect that this has actually been an issue that the previous owner put a Band-Aid on. Oh, this poor thing.
Oh yeah, you can totally see that. No, that's it's a additive. It makes the oil more effective.
It makes it more oily.
Yeah, look at that.
Looks like white paint.
I know.
This oil is actually totally fine. We're not even going to acknowledge that it looks like milk and I didn't notice this before, but I think there's some of that black plastic on it now too. It's not there. It's fine. The oil is good. It looks like it's brand new. This engine has no issues at all. The Jeep's fine, and but being realistic here, it's an old vehicle. Sometimes you have a 20-year-old sedan that's supposed to be bulletproof that has a transmission blowout on it with relatively low miles, and sometimes you have an about 30-year-old Jeep with high miles that hasn't been maintained that has engine issues. So these things happen. Engine blew up in my 96 after I beat on it. Some other cars last 160,000 miles and need new transmissions. So it's what happens. It happens with every car. I personally think it doesn't matter the brand. All of them are pretty much junk. I just prefer brands over other brands, but all that happens. The reason why I think there's an issue with the oil that's totally fine is when we first got this thing and I checked the radiator, and I don't know if you'll really be able to see it. Yeah, see how there's this gunk in here? And some of it's silver if you look down there. I think that is a head gasket sealer that they put in the radiator. So what you can do, and sometimes it works, is there's some head gasket sealer that you can run your radiator, and then it seals little holes in your head gasket. So what I think happened potentially is that the head gasket on this thing blew probably a while back. Previous owner or the owner before that said, hey, I don't care to fix it properly, dumped some stuff down the radiator, called it a day, and it's been fine. But then once we got it, we're not easy on it, we beat it, and I think it probably blew through that head gasket repair if that's the case. Only way to find out is by tearing off the head. I don't want to do that, but maybe we'll do that one of these days. So that's my hypothesis as to why the oil's totally fine. But yeah, you know, something hopefully we'll find out in the future. Maybe this thing will just blow up spectacularly like my 96 one of these days, or maybe we'll get to it before then, but you know, it's fine. Outside, just so happens to have a tinge of blue because of his lighting, which isn't the case, but the real test will be on a warm day, and if it still smokes, then that's definite blow by, which I forgot to mention earlier. But yeah, if you look at the air filter housing, there's oil, so it's a beauty.
So we're doing a quick iPhone clip right here just because the sound came back and I wanted to get a video of it. Do you hear that? It's actually gotten worse since it started.
Yeah, so, was it a couple weeks ago when we did the fuel deal?
Yeah, that was in December. That was almost a month ago.
So, around a month ago already, I guess. I was checking the oil. I think I was showing Sam's dad the metal flake. And I pulled it out again, and there's black bits of plastic. That plastic just so happens to match the only piece of plastic that should be in that motor, which is a timing chain guide. I'm in the middle of rebuilding the engine for my 96, and it's the same type of plastic. So this could be timing chain noise. So that's also good. But we'll just pretend that we don't hear it. So yeah. Fine. No issues. We're taking this thing for a little drive. I want you guys to pay very close attention to the sounds you hear. I'll actually turn off the HVAC for you. Now, do you hear that rubbing? I don't know how well you can hear that. I don't know how well the mic's picking it up, but there's a very distinct grinding sound coming from the front driver's side tire. Hopefully, it's just something messed up with the brakes. But the current theory is that it's a wheel bearing, so it's pulling a little bit of a forerunner on us. But as Josiah said, this thing is officially 30 years old now, being a 92 vehicle, and it is 2022 now. So, you know, these things happen to older vehicles, so it's not super big deal. Because this thing is a Jeep and not one of them Toyotas, the wheel bearings are actually a lot simpler to replace. And yeah, you know, it's, as I said already a few times, it's an old vehicle, so you're going to have wheel bearings going out, especially at the mileage this thing has, but that's the way she goes. Other than that, though, even with the destroyed suspension, it actually still rides pretty impressively smooth. Even after the tire incident, it still is more aligned than the 4Runner, if that makes sense. The alignment is still better in this thing than it is on the 4Runner, so that's saying something for sure. You know, we had a tire fly off of it, and the alignment is, yes, it's a little bit off, but it's still better than it is in the 4Runner. Do you hear that hissing?
Was it done before?
Oh yeah, it's the brake thing.
Oh yeah.
So as I said, guys, the milky oil actually is a better lubricant for the engine. It still gets up and goes pretty quick for how old it is.
You mean the totally clear oil?
Oh yeah, sorry. The clear oil, which I actually don't think we mentioned. We put what is it, Rotella diesel oil in here?
Yeah,
15W40 to help with the smoke issue, which did actually clear that up. We mentioned the TPS issue, making the transmission not shift properly.
that has not happened since that night. I've driven it a few times since then, and every time I have, the transmission has just been super responsive like it is tonight. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but maybe, you know, it's just the good old Jeep, you know, they fix themselves. That's just the characteristic of these well-built vehicles from back in the day that they just don't make anymore. So anyway, I've said it before, guys, this thing does have a lot more pickup than the 4Runner has, which does make sense because of the gearing difference, and of course the inline 6 making more torque than the V6 in the 4Runner does. The engine also sounds really nice. It's nice because we actually have a tailpipe on this thing too. Unlike the 4Runner, you can actually get more of the engine sound in the cab. This is luxury, guys. Very luxurious.
So now that we've driven it around for a bit, you know, I just wanted to check the oil again, see how good it looks. So here we go. It also has a heavy brake smell too, so that's something that we need to look at. Wow, look at that. It looks clean again, besides, you know, the little tip at the end that's metal flake. But
yeah, let me see if I can get that in focus here. Oh yeah, absolutely. You can see that metal shavings right there.
Yeah, but you know, it's other than that, it looks clear. So like I said, it's fine. You know, the milkiness isn't there.
Yeah, I'm telling you guys, these Jeeps, they just fix themselves.
Yeah.
Good old vehicles.
Well, I don't even see any metal shavings. A little bit.
Here, hold it still.
A little bit, but man.
Yep, a little bit.
We'll do 3 times the charm. Just got to double check that it's all good. Funny, man. You don't need to worry about that milkiness, man. See, I told you it wasn't there. Yeah, so yeah. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just because it hadn't been driven for a while.
Yeah, we're going to make it a little bit of a milkshake. He had the milkshake, and then it's like, all right, time to get it out of its system. It's fine. So as it was warming up, and after we heard the amazing, probably potential chain noise, I mentioned that this thing has blow-by. What I noticed last time when I looked in here, so I want to say this is like a PCV valve or something, which, by the way, this is new, and it's still leaking oil. So that also says something. But one thing I know is with these older style cast valve covers is there's not as much baffling, or pretty much no baffling in them. So they allow a lot more blow-by compared to the 96 and up valve covers, because those have baffling, so it helps with blow-by. Let's see if we can get this to open. Does it just not want to? It doesn't want to show and share its secrets tonight, I guess. There we go. By the way, that's pretty loose, which is what you want. See, yeah. So you see here, there's some nice oily bits, and that's blow-by. Now this doesn't look too crazy fresh. And one thing I'm going to check, pretty sure I've looked at the valve, or not the valve cover, the throttle body in this before, and it wasn't too dirty, so I'm going to go and take the boot completely off. And inspect this, and this will really be kind of the moment of truth to see how bad the blow-by is. So this thing is filthy. That's got pretty bad blow-by that is more recent, because I don't think it used to do that. So let's see. It actually looks pretty clean. It probably still has some. And yeah, feels maybe a little bit oily, but overall it's not that bad. So there's probably a little bit of blow-by going through. Maybe that was with the old oil, which was a 1030, which is what they're meant to have. But maybe after we put in the 1540, it might have stopped the blow-by, and I just noticed that after the oil change. So maybe. Either way, it's fine. Again, man, it's just vehicles, they get old and these things happen, so you can't blame the vehicle.
There you go, guys. That's going to be it for the first Jeep video for 2022. We will be doing more of these this year, probably not until summer though, because it is still very cold as we're shooting this video right now. But regardless, once the summer hits, we should hopefully be able to get more work done on this thing and maybe even put a lift kit on it. Not entirely sure on the time frame on that yet, but hopefully that's all going to happen this summer. As usual for these videos, big shout out to Josiah for helping me shoot the majority of this video, and of course explaining and showing some of the issues that the Jeep had. I'll leave his links in the description for you guys, as I always do. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this video. Come back next Friday for another one, but until then, that is going to be it. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, thank you for watching.